Hi everybody, it's Chef Christy and it's time for Popsicle a Week again. And here we are, it's August and the farm, Wendell Farms, is in peak tomato producing season, plus lots of other wonderful veggies. So I have been waiting for this moment to be able to do Gaspatcho popsicles. So that's what we're going to do today. I've already done a lot of my prep work. I have chunked up several different types of tomatoes. I've got some slicers and some paste tomatoes, all the different things that we call them scratch and dents, that they have to go now because they've got a bad spot and we don't want to waste the rest of the tomato. So this is a perfect opportunity to use those up. I've also already chunked up some celery and cucumber and a sweet banana pepper. And then I have the inner hearts of a small Vidalia onion. I debated about whether I wanted to put onion into this popsicle, but a Vidalia onion is really, really sweet. And the inner hearts like this, so I took that out. I'll slice this up and saute this with something else. But to use this raw, I thought this would be the sweetest, juiciest part of the onion. So I'm going to throw those in there. And then I have a few basil leaves. And I also have some celery leaves that I'm going to make a quick small chiffonade out of these leaves, and I'll show you what that means in a second, and put those in after I've blended everything up. I've cut everything up into pretty small pieces because I want to put it through the blender, but I don't want to puree it to the point where it's just pure juice. I want to leave it as chunky as possible. So having it already cut into fairly small pieces, that allows me to not have to over blend. I can just blend it until it's just starting to mix up and leave some of those chunks, because I like those chewy bits to be in the popsicle. It makes for a much more satisfying popsicle. I've talked to several people recently that have told me they're making popsicles and that they appreciate the fact that they're whole foods, that there's whole fruits and whole vegetables in them and not just sugary water, which we've done a couple of those with the ginger ale and things. But this is one. You make this completely vegetarian, keto friendly, gluten free, anything you want to there. So I'm going to start off, and I know I'm going to make more than the 8 popsicles that I have to fill today, and that's okay because it's summertime and I'm looking forward to having some gazpacho. So I'm going to make this kind of a twofer. So I'm going to start off with my peeled and chunked tomatoes, and I'm going to go ahead and stop there. Alright, so I've chunked up my tomatoes just a bit. I'm going to go ahead and pour those out. Still lots of big tomato chunks in there. I think I'll put a little bit of this back in here just so that I have some liquid. And now I'm going to do my other vegetables. I'm going to add my celery and my cucumber and my banana pepper. And I should go ahead and cut my sweet onion hearts into small chunks for the same reason I just said. Alright, so I've cut up my onion. I'm going to add that in here too. And I've got just a little bit of tomato sauce down there in the bottom. So let's see if that's enough. No, maybe not. Let's add just a little bit more. Now we're getting some movement. That's where I want it to be. Pour that in there. Alright. So at this point, I think I have done everything I need to do with the blender because I don't want it to get any smoother than that. Alright, so I've got my blended tomatoes and my cucumbers and pepper and celery in there. I'm going to add about a teaspoon of dried chives. And then I've washed this organic lime, and I'm going to take my microplane and I'm going to get some lime zest off of here. Probably not the whole lime, because if you overdo it on zest, even though it's not the pith, it can still get bitter. So I'm not gonna overdo that. I'm gonna go about half of this lime and add that. And then I'm gonna probably add most of this lime for the lime juice. Squeeze that in. And that will really give a nice brightness to the flavor. All right, so here I have added my lime zest, my chives, and my lime juice. I'm gonna go ahead and stir this up now. And it looks nice and chunky. That chunk's a little too big. I think I'm gonna go ahead and help that one out a little bit. And I don't mind doing that. I would rather chunk up the occasional too big chunk than lose that nice texture by over blending. Okay, that looks good. All right, now I want to make a little chiffonade, and a chiffonade is a French term for a ribbon. And a ribbon cut is the way that you can get nice little strips out of your basil. So I have some fresh basil here, and I'm going to stack it up. I'll make a little stack like this. And I'm not using a lot. I didn't want to overpower these with too much basil. So I'm making kind of a tiny stack, but still. And then I'm going to take my celery leaves. I'm going to add them to that stack too. And the idea is to roll it up into a little cigar, but just getting them rolled half is fine. So now I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to make tiny little crosswise cuts. And you'll see as I make my little slices, what I end up with is little ribbons. So by making my chiffonade here, I've now got little chunks of celery leaf and basil that I'm going to stir that in. And when you bite into that, or drink it as gazpacho, but when you bite into it as the popsicle, there's going to be little green flecks, which is pretty visually, and you'll get a nice little pop of flavor from that basil and the celery leaf, as opposed to it just being part of the background flavors blended into the gazpacho. All right, so now I want to add some more seasoning. I haven't tasted it yet, but I know it's going to need some salt. So let's go with about half a teaspoon of salt at that point. It may need a little bit more. And just some straight up ground black pepper. I want to get the pretty fine stuff in there right now. And then I'm going to add a little heat to this. I don't usually use Tabasco. There are only a couple of things that I use it in, but you really need it in a cold soup like this. It really needs to add some zing to it to be able to not just be, yeah, that's just tomato juice. So a quarter to a half a teaspoon of Tabasco. And I'm going to stir all that up. And I'm going to give that a taste and see if I need anything else. I've added some salt. I've added some sour with the lime juice. I've added a little spicy with the Tabasco sauce. And I've got all the great flavors from all the other vegetables. So let's see how that's shaping up and give that a taste. That's really tasty. So I've tasted my gazpacho and it's pretty wonderful, but it's lacking that zing, that nice rounded back flavor that I want. And I've decided that even though it's got the lime juice, that's a very fruity flavor. It's tart, but I think I need a little vinegar. So I'm going to use some red wine vinegar and about a teaspoon and see how that affects the flavor. I have a feeling that that's going to do what we want. All right, let's try that. And you can't even really taste the vinegar, but you can taste that it has rounded out the flavor. That's just perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for. Okay, so we've got our gazpacho nicely balanced. There's a little bit of crunch in it. There's sourness and saltiness and a little bit of heat. And so now it's time to fill our popsicles. I think over the bowl is my safest bet this time. And I don't think we're going to have any problem with our herb chunks sinking to the bottom because we've got all that other fiber from the tomatoes and the cucumbers and the peppers and the onions. I mean, this is 2 ounces. So this is a quarter of a cup of vegetables. So 2 of these would be a complete vegetable serving, if you want to look at it that way. Half a cup of cooked vegetables is a vegetable serving. These aren't cooked, these are raw, so we've got good enzymes and stuff going, even though it's going to go in the freezer. And fill my last 2. And I was thinking, I've got my little celery stick here, and I'm probably going to eat that one and think, gosh, why didn't I put celery stick popsicle sticks in all of them? This was a great idea. Necessity is the mother of invention. Okay, so there's my celery popsicle stick. Perfect. It's going to be great. I can tell I'm going to be sad I didn't put those in all of them. All right, there we go. There's our Gaspatcho popsicles. I'm going to put those in the freezer and enjoy those in a few hours. All right, it's the next morning and our Gaspatcho popsicles are all frozen up. So it's time to check them out. And look at that gorgeousness. Doesn't that look beautiful? And I'm going to bring this up here so that you can see all the little flecks of, we've got basil and celery in there, and some little chunks of onions and things. So I guess it's time to try it. Oh, so good. It's almost not hot enough right now for me to truly enjoy how good this is. It's salty and sour. Got that tiny little bit of tang from the Tabasco sauce. And it's really, really tasty. I need to wait for this afternoon when it's really, really hot, really, really humid, and then to go stand outside so that I can truly appreciate how cooling and wonderful this is. So I also have my my celery stick, and what I'm seeing is it froze, and now that it's thawing out a little bit, it's pretty limp. So maybe not the best thing to hold, but it worked to get it out of the popsicle mold. So if nothing else, it was able to create a handle. So that's my Gaspatcho popsicles for this week. Enjoy now that we're in the heart of summer and we've got all these wonderful garden vegetables. I hope that you can enjoy some Gaspatcho, and if you feel like it, you can freeze some and make some Gaspatcho popsicles. Have a great week, everybody.